Knockoffs, copycats, imitators. They all share one thing in common. They always pale in comparison next to the true original. Just like the stylish and versatile Lexus RX, the crossover that paved the way for others. And it's still the best for one simple reason. Nothing else is as good as the original. Click the banner to discover more. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
The Big Bark, listen up dog owners, is for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host Darragh Burke and canine co-hosts Bruno and Milly. The Big Bark.
Hello and a very big welcome back to The Big Bark, the podcast that is barking mad about your dog, or doggies. This evening, as always, I am joined by my canine co-hosts Bruno and Milly, who are absolutely fecked after a day in the real hot weather that's been there. Make sure during this weather, guys, that you're giving your doggies and cats or whatever animals you have, no matter what animal it is, make sure that they are well hydrated during this weather. Now, I do believe there's rain on the way, so that won't be too much of an issue for over the next few days. This evening, we have a pretty awesome episode. I'm very much looking forward to this because we are talking about all things canine fitness this evening. And to do that, we have Louise from Pawsitive Fitness joining us on the line now. Louise, welcome to the show.
Hey Darragh, how are you?
Good. So, Louise, tell us a bit then about Pawsitive Fitness Ireland. Just tell us what is meant by canine fitness as a whole.
Okay, well I suppose canine fitness is similar enough to human fitness, in the sense that, it's out and about kind of getting your dog fit and keeping them conditioned, because obviously you see, the same with humans, you see a lot of overweight dogs now as well. I think people tend to kind of treat dogs as humans and they spoil them a lot. I'm guilty of it myself, I'll hold my hands up, but due to that, then you often see a lot of dogs that are overweight and stuff like that, which, long term is not great for their health. So the leaner a dog is and the fitter a dog is, the likelihood that it's going to live that bit longer and it's going to be healthier and have a better quality of life. If you look at high energy breeds as well, like they're made to kind of work and stuff like that. So, fitness would be a big thing with them. So I suppose that's something else that kind of comes into play too.
Okay, very good. And, okay, so run me through then, you have been talking to me about a few different things here. So, I think the most common one I've heard of would be Canicross. So, would you, for anyone who doesn't know what Canicross is, would you explain it a bit for people?
Okay, so Canicross, I'll correct you. Sorry about that because it's pronounced Canicross, even though it's spelled kind of Cani-cross. So basically, as the name suggests, it's canine cross country running. So it's essentially cross country running with your dog. What makes it that bit different from just going out for a regular run with your dog is that there's specific equipment that you use, and the equipment is it's kind of ergonomically designed to make running more comfortable for the dog and for you. So you have three different pieces of equipment that you tend to use. Number one is your harness. So your dog would have what's kind of known as a Canicross or a sled dog specific harness. So it sits on the dog in a way that it doesn't impede the trachea or the windpipe. It also allows free movement across the shoulders, and it allows the dog to pull. It makes pulling more comfortable for the dog, because if you think about where a collar sits on a dog, if you're running your dog and they're pulling in the collar, you're going to be placing a lot of pressure on their windpipe. So long term, you run the risk of damage. And certain other harnesses as well, they're not designed to allow free movement across the shoulders for the dog. Some of them sit right across the shoulders. So if you think, if you were going for a walk or a run, I always kind of liken it, people laugh at this, I tend to liken it to if you watch, those prison movies where the guys have the jeans that are down around their arses, for lack of a better description. If you try to run in that, you wouldn't actually be able to move your legs properly. So it's the same idea with the harnesses, whereas, Canicross specific harnesses are made to allow the shoulders to move freely, and it just makes running that bit more comfortable for the dog. I mean, most dogs, you know, if they want to run, they'll run in anything, they wouldn't care, but it's just, you know, long term, it makes the experience a lot more enjoyable for the dog. The second piece of equipment then would be what's known as a bungee lead. So that acts like a shock absorber. So if if you're ever walking the dogs and you see a cat and the two of them decide that they're going to chase that cat, you get that yank in your shoulders when the dog pulls. The shock absorber would take a lot of that yanking out of the pull. So it makes it that bit more comfortable for you. So you're not kind of getting yanked about when you're running. The third piece of equipment then is a belt that you wear. It's a human belt. And it sits around your hips. So it lets you run hands-free. So, you know, a lot of runners, you know, when you run, you also use your hands and your arms to propel you as much as you do your legs. So that allows it for that. And, you know, if you're clumsy like me and you fall a lot, it means you've two hands to catch yourself as well. So, you know, it's kind of beneficial that way. So, you know, those three pieces of equipment are, you know, they're all designed to make running more comfortable for you and your dog. And, you know, it just makes it more fun long term.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at some of the equipment here on your website that you offer these for sale as well, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I'm looking at some of them just here, and like it's just incredible the amount of equipment that goes into it. Yet like you make it sound so easy there as well. I don't know, I honestly think that like I'd probably have two of those dogs who'd see that cat and they'll just be like, yeah, we don't care, you're gone. And tell me then, so does bikejoring is another thing that you do as well. So, okay, yeah. I'm going to take a wild guess and say this would involve me, if Bruno Milly had me out there, probably falling down a mountain or something on a bike.
Well, starting off, you wouldn't be throwing yourself up a mountain to begin with. But yeah, I mean, Cani-cross and also bikejoring and in other sports, scootering, they all originated from sled dog sports originally. So, you know, obviously sled dog sports, you have teams of dogs and they're mushing in the snow. But there's times a year like the summer where there'd be no snow, but they still need to keep the dogs conditioned. Because if you look at the dogs that do the big Alaskan races, you know, they do hundreds of kilometers over a number of days. So if their dogs get fat and lazy over the summer, they're not ready to race when it comes into the winter. So these sports originate as a way of kind of keeping the dogs fit. Obviously, they wouldn't be, you know, doing the distance that they'd be doing when they're out mushing in the snow, but you know, it's just a way of kind of keeping them going during the summer, keeping them exercised, keeping them focused, but, you know, obviously with no snow in play. So bikejoring would kind of be similar enough, I suppose, to dog sledding in the sense that the dog is out in front and they're pulling, but you would only have one, maybe two dogs max. You wouldn't be running, you know, a team of 6 or 10 dogs because the brakes definitely wouldn't work on a bike against all those dogs pulling you. But it's the same kind of concept. You know, you would also have the harness that you would have for Canicross. You have your bungee lead that will be slightly longer. And you also have what's called a bike arm. So this sits over the wheel of your bike. So it sits kind of just under the handlebars and it keeps the dog lead away from the front wheels of the bike. Because, you know, you kind of always run the risk of the lead actually getting caught in the front wheels and doing a nice face plant, which isn't fun. I've done it in the past, but you know, it's just a way of kind of keeping it safe. You do find a lot of the time, like you were saying about Bruno Milly kind of seeing a cat and pulling you over to it, you do find a lot of the time that the dogs tend to focus. You know, once they have their working gear on, in time, they tend to learn that they're working when they have that on. And you'll often find that they focus when they're on it. I have a pointer who, you know, would be a working dog and very prey driven. But we run in the Phoenix Park in Dublin, which is notorious for the deer. And she'll pass those deer. She doesn't even look at them. Whereas when we're walking her, she knows the deer are there and she'll be staring, she'll be on high alert. We were at a race 2 years ago. And we were probably doing about 30, 40 kilometers an hour on the bikes. We were doing a fair speed and a squirrel actually ran out in front of her. You know, and I just kind of let her order and told her to keep going because she didn't know what to do. You know, she was kind of going, oh shit, there's a squirrel. Do I chase it? Do I not? And she just kept going. And, you know, that's kind of down to the focus that she has when she's working, you know. So she knows that she has the harness on, she's attached to the bike or she's attached to me. And she kind of, you know, clicks that little switch in their head and it switches them from, you know, just going for a walk to actually working.
So tell me then, like, obviously it must be a big transition for a dog that's just used to the normal maybe 2 kilometre, 3 kilometre walks to something like Canicross, like Canicross?
Cani.
Canicross. I'll get it right eventually. I promise. I'll get it right by the end of the show. So there must be like a lot of training involved.
There can be, and it depends. You know, there's different levels of what you want to do. I actually run classes, Canicross classes in the Phoenix Park in Dublin, and we have a lot of kind of new people who, you know, have just heard of it and they come to class and they kind of contact me, and I think they picture the class as everyone turns up and runs 5K, and they kind of go, oh well, I wouldn't be that fit. But you know, you don't just. I mean, you know yourself, if you never ran before, you're not going to go out and just do 5K, because you'd be in bits and probably put you out of commission for a month, you know, and put you off ever running again. It's the same concept with the dogs. You know, you teach them gradually that, you know, this equipment means work. You know, you might go out and maybe just do, you know, 500-meter run and then walk for 1.5 kilometers, you know, to begin with, and you would slowly build that up. And that's what we do in the classes. You know, we work on different things then as well, like directions and different commands that you use, you know. But no, you wouldn't be just kind of, you know, strapping the dog up and then fecking off for a 5K run. The dog would probably be well able, and you know, the reality is the dogs are generally fitter than we are, so we'd be the ones that would be struggling with the 5K. But no, it's something that you build up to gradually, you know. And then, like I said, there's different levels, and if you want to just go out for a plod with your dog, that's fine. But you know, you can obviously go on then to compete and race, and you know, represent Ireland at World Championships if it's something that you're competitive about and it's something that you're passionate about as well, you know.
So has it really gone that big that like there's actually, like I've heard of there's a lot of competitions out there, but there's actually world championships for these type of sports?
Yeah, and I've been to a few of them, and I think there's one called the International Canicross Championships, and they would be world/European. They alternate every year. Championships, but I think next year will be their 23rd year of racing, you know. So it's not a new sport, it's just that Ireland, you know, we're only kind of starting, although I've been doing it 10 years myself, so it's been in Ireland 10 years. It's just lately that we're getting out, and I think businesses like my own are kind of helping to spread the awareness of the sports. And you know, you're kind of, I mean, I'll often be out for a run with the dogs and I see someone jogging with their dog on a lead, and you know, handheld lead, and I'm chasing them, trying to give them a card, going, here, hold on, you know, you can do this as a sport, and blah blah blah. So it is just kind of about, and you know, even talking to yourself and doing podcasts and stuff like that, it all raises the awareness, because so many people run with their dogs and they don't realize that you can do it, and if you want to do it competitively, you can as well, you know.
So Louise, how has last year, our 18 months thereabouts been, like with COVID? Like obviously that's had a massive impact, because with the restrictions regarding like outdoor sports and like just in the general restrictions to meeting up with other people, like training sessions. How has all that been affected by this, I suppose, this fucking pandemic now at this stage is all I can really call it?
Well, we had to stop classes, you know, obviously when they brought restrictions in, even though we were doing outdoor classes, we had to put a stop to it, I'd say probably maybe April last year. And then when they kind of eased the lockdowns, there were certain little time frames that we could actually do 1 or 2 classes, you know, because when you think about it, we have dogs, and you know, actually the bungee lines that we use are 2 meters long. So we were like, there's the perfect social distance in there, you know. But I mean, we're not kind of standing around talking. We're in a group, we're running, and we're spread out. So obviously when they lifted some of the restrictions, we were fine like that and we could continue. But, you know, you do kind of find that you lose that focus, you know, you miss getting out with the dogs. And, you know, like I said, I compete, but having nothing to look forward to, you know, you're kind of only going out for a run. You're not really going out with any specific goal in mind. And that was tough. I found that tough, especially over the last year. You know, because I find, you know, races motivate me, and I get out and I train with the dogs, whereas not knowing when the next race is going to be coming, you're just going out running and you don't really have any structure. And I know a lot of the class people kind of missed classes as well, because they were just kind of going out for a run. But even the dogs seem to notice as well. You know, a lot of the dogs didn't have that motivation and that focus, because you find, especially with the classes on Saturday morning, dogs seem to know it's Saturday morning. You know what I mean? And they're waking up and they're looking forward to class as much as, you know, kids look forward to going to play with their friends or whatever, you know, and they kind of know that. So I think a lot of people found it hard. But what I did find actually was that I have an online store that sells all the equipment, and I found that I was out the door with orders.
When you see someone sipping on a crisp, refreshing drink from McDonald's, you may suddenly crave one too. And that's normal. It's more than a drink. It's a McDonald's drink.
All your ice-cold go-to drinks are here whenever that mood hits. From classic Coca-Cola to a sparkling Sprite to a sweet, sweet tea. Get any size for just $1.39, only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary, cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You know, because obviously it's something that people have discovered now, and, you know, they've embraced it, and they're happy to get out and about running with their dog, because I suppose there's nothing else to do. A lot of people, you know, if they weren't working or if they were working from home or whatever, you know, running with your dog was something that seemed to come naturally to a lot of people. So I suppose I can't really complain in that way, can I? But no, it did. And I suppose a lot of people found this new kind of love for their local community as well. They were going out to their own parks and they were doing their own thing. So, you know, as bad as it is and as sick as we all are of it, you know, in certain ways, you kind of look at it in the positive as well, I suppose, you know, and I found running, getting out with the dogs just helped my mental health as well. Big time.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It gave me a reason to
And,
get out.
you know, like, I think that's just the thing. Like, we realise, like, especially over the last 12 months, like, how dogs have helped our mental health. You mentioned there about, like, the dogs, like, it's like they know when it's starting on. Like, obviously, this is great for, like, building the dog's socialization skills as well.
Yeah. And you do find, like, they have their friends. You know what I mean? Like, we do get the odd dog to class that might be a little bit reactive and all, and we always make adjustments for that. But you'll often find as well that as reactive as they are when they're standing around, once they have that job to do, it kind of switches off that part of their brain as well, and they'll actually run fairly close to other dogs that they tried to kill beforehand when we were kind of standing around before class, you know, and it does help. And like I said, a lot of them would have their friends, and they have their little dogs that they like to run beside and stuff like that, you know. So it is as much a social aspect for the humans as it is the dogs, you know.
So, just wondering, like, is this more kind of for bigger dogs, or would this be for dogs of all sizes?
Well, any dogs really. I mean, obviously with the likes of bike, if you have a small dog, you know, they're going to have to work a lot harder to pull you, you know, because if you consider a small dog that weighs maybe 10 kilos, if you're looking at a 60 kilo person on a bike that weighs maybe 10 kilos as well, that's a lot for them to pull. But I mean, you know, I've been at races, and there's a lady that races, and she has, I think he's like a fox terrier mix, and he's tiny, but like, he fucking runs. He wants to get out and he wants to run, and he doesn't realize that he's only little, and he runs his heart out. And I mean, he's bloody fast, and your woman has to work that bit harder to kind of, you know what I mean, to race. But yeah, I mean, small dogs, and to be honest with you, any kind of breed of dog can do it. I mean, obviously you have to be a little bit careful with the brachycephalic dogs like bulldogs and boxers and stuff like that, just because of their breeding. So we always kind of say to people, look, just have a chat with your vet, see what your vet thinks, you know. And I think Canicross is a little bit easier because you're not running at that speed. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, when I run the pointers on the bike, I've actually hit 50 kilometers an hour at one stage on the bike. You know what I mean? So that's quite intense, you know. Whereas Canicross, you know what I mean, it's a lot slower. You know, even if you are a fast runner, you're looking at maybe, you know, half the time to bike it than it would to Canicross it, you know. So I think in that sense you could run boxers and stuff like that. And especially in the UK, you see a lot of people running with the more flat-faced dogs, because, you know, you're not really going at a major speed, and all they're really doing is going at a fast trot, you know. But as long as the dog wants to run and they're fit and they're healthy and they've no underlying problems, you know, any breed of dog can do it, any size. I've had small dogs to classes. I've had a lady with a Great Dane that decided she wanted to run the dog, and I kind of went, well, you're a brave woman if you see a cat and the dog decides to go. But yeah, you know, it's fairly friendly for all dogs really, you know, and it's suitable for any dog that's happy to get out and about.
It sounds very interesting, and looking at your website here, and one thing I have to ask, because there's one of the images on your homepage slider there, and there is literally someone on a bike covered head to toe in muck. Is that something that happens quite often?
It can. It's Ireland. It rains all the time, you know. That was actually me at the World Championships in Belgium 2 years ago, crossing the finish line with my pointer, and it was it was like Tough Mudder only on a bike because it was just mud central. Just coming up, the World Championships were a 2-day event, and they go to different countries every year. Different country hosts it. But coming up to the event, it had rained for the whole week coming up to it, and a lot of the trail was mud and muck. And then when you factor in maybe 800 athletes, running, biking, scooting with their dog, by the Sunday, it really was like Tough Mudder in places. You were falling. I fell. I face planted a few times on the course, and but it was fun. And like I said, Ireland, it rains all the time, so you're always running in mud anyway. And even some of our races, not to that extent now of that photo, but you'll often come back and you're covered in mud, and the dogs are cut, because you find as well, especially when you're on the bike, the dog kicks up a lot of mud, so they might come back and they're nice and clean, but you have all the splashes all over your face. But it's supposed to be good for your complexion, so I don't complain.
Yeah, just mentions even though of Tough Mudder, actually it brings back haunting memories for me. I did it a number of years ago myself, and just all I remember at the very end, the muck and the electroshock fields of wires that you go through, and I got shocked in places I don't even want to say on air, to be honest.
Imagine. They do a doggy version of that actually over in the UK. There's a couple of different, obviously not with the electric shocks, but they call it rough dugger. And it's all, you're going over jumps and you're climbing and you're going through the mud with the dog. I haven't gone to one yet, but it looks like fun, But I think, it's Scotland, like here, it's mud central. So I think you just kind of have to embrace it at some point of your life, if it's something that you want to do. And, the dogs kind of get used to it, and they enjoy it as much, they don't really care.
Given that Milly goes for every bit of mud that she can find, I'm fairly sure it's something that she definitely love anyway. So tell me, Louise, do you have obviously you have classes now, like we're coming out of lockdown eventually, lockdown 57 or 59, I've lost count at this stage, to be honest. But you have classes starting back again.
Yeah.
So where did
the
classes
2 weeks ago.
Okay, and where do they take place?
Well, the classes are in the Phoenix Park every Saturday morning, and the times kind of alternate depending on the weather. Generally, they'd be at 9, but this Saturday I have them at 8:30, just because you just don't know. If it's hot out, running your dogs, you're just taking a risk running them, with the heat and all. So we tend to try and kind of work around that. Now, what I also do is I travel around Ireland doing workshops, Cani-cross workshops. So it's basically, give or take about a 2-hour workshop. And I go to whatever counties. I've been to Cork, I've been to Galway, and I've been to Waterford. Not so much last year, but the year before. So you kind of get a group of people together who are interested in it. And I come down and I give the spiel, and I get the equipment. I bring all the equipment, and people get kitted out with their dogs. And, we essentially do a Cani-cross class, but we cover a little bit of everything, because with Cani-cross and Bikejoring, you have certain commands and stuff like that your dog needs to know. Because, if you're coming up and you're going to be turning right, your dog needs to know all that. So we cover all that in the workshops as well. And, what you find as well with the workshops, a lot of the time, the people that are at the workshop will set up a WhatsApp group. They'll often go on then and they'll arrange little get-togethers and runs and stuff like that themselves then. And it seems to work well, and people enjoy it, especially the fact that they can't make it to classes in Dublin. Because if you're looking at Waterford or whatever, it's a fair distance from Dublin. But I mean, we've had people from Louth, and we've had people from Wicklow come up for classes as well. So it's just seems to be something that people are really embracing, which is great.
Yeah, and I suppose even like for me down here, like down in Limerick, there's like I don't know if there's anyone actually like doing any of this like down in Limerick at the moment. I know we were talking there a couple of days ago, and you were saying that you'd love to like come down to Limerick at some stage.
Yeah. I actually had a girl a couple of days before you I was talking to you about doing this podcast. I had a girl from Limerick asking, did I know of anyone doing classes down that way? So I'd mentioned to her, if she could get a couple of people together, I'd be more than happy. And, the same goes for any county, because I know your podcast will be reaching people all over Ireland. As long as I kind of have a minimum of, maybe 7 people to make it worth my while, because I drive a big van and all the equipment's heavy. So I kind of have to justify going down. But yeah, I mean, look, as long as, you have 6 or 7 people at a class minimum, I'll go anywhere. Have van, will travel. You know what I mean? And I'm always happy to kind of go and teach new people about this sport that I love so much.
It sounds so interesting, and like definitely if you're down this way, I'll definitely try and get along as well. I'd love to see what it's all about and see how many times Bruno trips me up. Anytime we're even having a little race
Many
below,
times you fall, yeah.
Even when we have a little race below Newell, like it's almost like he's looking up at me to wait till he sees when I'm not looking at him, and he just like trips me up for. It's like he's doing it for the crack. But definitely it's something that I'd love to get along to myself. And for any of our listeners out there, if you would like to get involved in a workshop, Louise, what are your details for them to contact you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Pawsitive Fitness Ireland. So when I say positive, it's PAWSITIVE. So it's a little play on the word positive. I'm on Facebook and Pawsitive Fitness Ireland there as well. I also have the website, which is www.k, the letter K and the number 9 fitness.ie. And I'm always on hand to answer questions, and I'm happy, if people have queries about equipment or just getting started and stuff like that, I'm always on hand, and if anybody wants to ask me anything, they're more than welcome. And I like to think I'm approachable. But no, like I said, I enjoy the sport so much that there's never a stupid question, and I'm always happy to answer questions from people and help them out and help them get started.
Almost sounds like a challenge there. I'll definitely find a stupid question to ask at some stage anyway. So that's all we have for this evening for you. Thanks once again to Louise from Pawsitive Fitness for joining us. If you want to get in touch with Louise, go to her Instagram page or her website that she mentioned just earlier. Links will be in the bio below and the description below the actual episode on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast. Until next week, be sure to find us on Instagram. Our Instagram is going quite nicely nowadays. Probably our best platform that we have, because Facebook is pretty awful at times. Don't really rate that highly. Twitter, use it the odd bit, but on all those platforms you can find us on the Big Bark Podcast. We are also on TikTok, also on the Big Bark Podcast. Snapchat, no, couldn't really be bothered on that now. And I do also believe that we have an update on our Patreon page, which will have our member benefits going live on the 1st of July. Taking a bit longer than I wanted, but be sure to get on over there, because you could get yourself something nice for yourself that has the Big Bark logo on it. Speaking of something nice with the Big Bark logo, we also have our newsletter, which is going out I think Monday or Tuesday next week. It depends really on whether I end up in the pub on Monday, which is quite likely, with the pubs reopening for the first time for outdoor drinks since Christmas maybe. But we have our Dog of the Month, which is going to be included in the newsletter. Now, if you want your dog to be our Dog of the Month and to win a personalised Big Bark bandana, courtesy of Pretty Little Pup, who make just amazing stuff. They make county colours bandanas too, and loads of other different bandanas. I was talking to say earlier on today from Pretty Little Pup, so we're going to get something kind of rolling there. The pictures of the bandanas actually are on our Instagram page, so be sure to check those out. And they'll have a lovely Big Bark logo on them, which your doggy can wear around and show that they are proud to be a supporter and listener of the Big Bark. Well, look, I've waffled on enough there anyway. Once again, thanks to Louise for joining us. And that's it for today. Hopefully, see you all next week for a brand new episode. We have Samantha Rawson from the Canine College Backwards next week, who has been a fantastic guest on the show previous occasions. So we're really looking forward to that. Give your doggies lots of cuddles and have a great week.
The Big Bark, listen up dog owners, is for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host Darragh and canine co-hosts Bruno and Milly. The Big Bark.